Last time we saw these two players, one player had the other bent over a barrel, pummeling him with his salami. But this time around, we'll have to see if it's just going to be a rinse repeat. I've seen this movie before, or a whole new experience. That's right, folks. Salami versus Lenok. Delhi, not England this time, though, for Lenok. It's going to be Delhi versus China. Let's get into this one. I'm looking forward to it. And although it is not quite Dry Arabia, it is something similar. As you can see, we are going to be here on Lipany. Salami on his specialist Civ, but I'd say in fairness also Lenok on his specialist Civ. When this guy first started playing, this was the Civ I was impressed by, which he manned. It was definitely the Chinese. I think like over time that has continued to improve, and I think every time I see him on Chinese, like that's when I'm like yeah. The gloves are off now, all right? He's going bare fist at this point. So let's see what he can actually achieve in this type of game. Looking at the opening generation, I think overall this is quite a nice one. He's got a natural choke point, which is very helpful against any sort of early pressure. In fact, he's got a beautiful choke point. Look what he can do here. Wall, 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 and then all of a sudden you have to force this really wide movement. It's not as simple for Salami. Salami, in the last game he had against Lenok, which would have been the England-Delhi one, which, if it hasn't already, will appear soon on the YouTube side. That game was very good for Salami. Salami had a very retracted point where he could easily wall himself in. There is potential for walling this one. I would measure this one actually quite comparative to the England-Delhi game in that like he can easily wall this to begin with, and then he can use troops to easily wall the rest and force a funnel point. And that's one of the beautiful things about Delhi. Like, if we were talking about any other Civ needing to wall themselves in on this map, it would feel really frustrating because there's so much open ground over here you have to cover and cover, right? But when you're the Delhi, you can just get your spearmen, your archers, whatever to go build those. You don't lose any efficiency off your production lines. Your villages are always working. So really nice for him. And I think that's critical because I think the most important thing when you're playing Delhi is usually a lot of your compositions involve very static, slow-moving units. So the best case scenario is one where you can actually force a funnel point, a choke point, to fight around. There are some deviations, some strategies that revolve around Lancers. I think those tend to work best on water hybrid maps where you actually get a big eco booster and you can actually get a clear blatant lead over your opponent when you bait them into going the water and you deny them out, right? I like Lancers more in those situations, especially where you have to control aggressive crossings. This feels more like kind of a Archer, War Elephant, Tower Elephant, rather, type game to me. We'll see, though. It might be that China forces his hand. Remember, China does have some effective tools. Of course, they get easy access to siege off the start castle with the clock tower. And then, of course, it's not unheard of for them to actually, just spam out spears very quickly to counter you out. And they're very cost-effective at doing it because they do have that supervise out of the Imperial officials. A lot of Civs in this situation, like, if they had to stop off for spears just to address the elephants, they wouldn't be happy because not only is it a case of how many of your spearmen get, like, peeled off as you approach for the fight, it's also a case of like how pricey it is to get the infrastructure in place to support enough spearmen coming out. One of the beautiful things about China, their economy early on is so efficient because, well, they drop 150 wood structure and it functions at the same rate as 3 of them. So you save 300 wood for the same effect. And that's before we talk about everything else Imperial officials do, right? Supervision, giving that 20% additional drop-off, as we're seeing come into effect beautifully for Lenok. Then also just taxing. Notice that someone isn't on the gold at all. Pretty efficient, right? It's actually interesting how this kind of... It's a compounded effect with the Imperial officials as well. Because they're supervising a building here, they're getting that additional drop-off. That's step one. Then there's the fact that, like, because you aren't using your gold, all your villages are producing taxes out of these 2 structures. So you actually don't need like a third Imperial official over like monitoring a gold line as an example. You can, of course, go on gold later, and you should. But the cool thing about this compounding effect is when you're talking about like min-maxing your economy and like trying to exploit it to the fullest in the early game, what you're essentially doing is you're getting the maximum value out of your Imperial officials with just 2, where like theoretically, when you need free resources at this stage in the game, it should be that you need to get a third Imperial official out. You're able to ignore it entirely, and it means that you're just actually, like, you're essentially hoarding all of that kind of surplus economy into 1 specific or 2 specific areas of your base. In this case, 1 area, because it's just so tight. Salami cracking up the feudal ahead of Lenok. Lenok now moving up. China do occasionally find themselves being a little bit slower, mainly because they move very aggressively sometimes with the placement of the Barbican Sun, or further out from the base we're seeing like this. And also, just because you're trying to min-max your economy early, remember that going for those Imperial officials, although we said you save yourself the price of 1, it's still 150 food each. That's 300 food out of your early game economy. The beauty is just how quickly these units pay for themselves, really. I mean, I wish we had a clear, like, drop-off count, how many times food has been dropped off here, to give you kind of an indication. Because you're getting bonus 2 food each time. So, just to put that in perspective, all you need is 75 drop-offs to make the price back. And if we give, like, a gathering rate of, let's say, every 2 seconds, so let's say every 20 seconds you're returning 10, you see how this maps out very quickly, right? So that means every, like, minute you're gaining extra 6 food per villager. There's 7 villagers working here. I can't believe I'm doing maths. It's going to be horrible. So we're getting, like, what, 42 per minute? So that means in less than 4 minutes, this Imperial official pays for themselves. And then everything past that is gains. And also it has the flexi of doing things like we talked about with the supervising, and then there's also that taxing on top. All right, that's enough nerding, though. Like, I think we get it by now. Like, shut up, Pigeon. We understand Imperial officials are strong. Let's talk about someone else in this game, because there is someone else that we enjoy watching. It is the Delhi Supremo. This is the guy you go to if you want to know all the neat little tricks, because this guy knows this civ inside out. Salami playing on the Delhi with the opening straight into the stable spam, and he's pushing out those horsemen. I wouldn't be surprised if he, is he going for the military efficiency? Yeah, he's already got it. He just hasn't garrisoned yet, so he's getting a new scholar out that will be able to address that. He is also researching into the Sanctity next. You can see it's almost done already, so expect him to actually quickly be moving out to these sacred sites to cap them up, as you end up getting 200 gold per minute as a result. And the response is going to be a Rax drop, which Salami has scoured. And you'll also see the secondary TC. So Leonok just trying to boom up, being very greedy here. It's just a question of whether you can punish it. It does feel like you're kind of like now outmatched now that you see the barracks drop. And I think that's a very heads-up play by Leonok. He's played this matchup enough. Not even specifically just trying to up against Delhi and up against Salami, to understand that the opening usually is Horsemen. So if you just have spears in place, you can easily defend your greedy eco expansion. And there isn't really much that Salami can do about it. The only way you would have been able to exploit it is if Leonok had done this really aggressive TC like out here, right? Where there's a lot of spread ground that you can move in between. But the whole purpose of the way he's done this TC, he's not retracting it the same way you would against an English longbow player where you're like, oh, I'm going to be hyper pressured early on. I need to keep like clustered TCs. What he's done is he left enough room between the TCs to set up a full farm network so you can actually switch over and transition to farms with a lot of protected ground that can't like easily come backfire for him later when he gets sniped out. Salami not caring about that snipe out factor just yet. The scholars are on the move. Archer's also coming out, so he's prepping to count the spears. And understandably, Leonok is moving those spears out. He has to address the threat of the sacred sites. Problem is he's already counted, and it means he can't do anything, so he's going to have to back up. The question is, what do you do now? Do you try and switch? Yeah, he's going to stables. Now, he can escalate very fast here, folks. Remember that supervise, we haven't really seen it used yet. It's just been kind of passive spearman production. But he's probably going to have to, at some point, spam hardcore on the horsemen with supervise to get enough troops out to counterattack one of these sacred sites. Notice that he's not rushing to do it just yet because of the price. I said that he's actually supervising already, but this will quickly switch over to a situation where you won't be able to afford it, because right now he's got 2 TCs. He needs like another, I want to say 30 seconds, 40 seconds to get enough villagers on food to prep himself for this. You can see actually every new villager coming out is instantly shifting across towards these food lines. I said that he's now on the wood. Is he looking for a... He might be looking for a third transition. I mean, I think like trip transition is hard to pull off because Delhi's really strict their time and they're very oppressive. But I think that China is a civ that can do it, courtesy of how much additional eco they get early on. So it wouldn't surprise me if we do now see Leonok looking to drop a third building, aka the archery range, and give himself the triangle, right, of all 3 units. Oh, wow. Salami. This is way too greedy. Look what he's doing. The villagers on the front. Leonok maybe jumps the gun, though. He might be pressured for this and punished. He's sticking to his guns for the moment, but he's not really getting the big bang for buck he's looking for. Sneaking in more horsemen coming out. Remember, he's pushing them out 3 times as quickly. He just can't afford it regularly at this rate. And looks like the army is going to be spent. I think he sniped maybe 2, possibly 3 villagers in the end for that. And I got to say, actually, these trades are pretty damn good. It feels like the prioritization is wrong. Maybe the spearmen got to live way too long there. It feels like they were actually ignored to a certain degree by the archers out from Salami. Salami will just cut and run and finish off building the palisades to protect the sacred site and accept that he's lost this battle. say that. Leonok only getting away in the end with one of his troops, but damage done, right? I feel like the military trade was fairly even, and then he also snipes out some villagers. And he'll be back soon. You can see more horsemen now coming out. And I think Salami's about to lose 5 archers. Yeah, he's being baited out here on purpose. Leonok done this intentionally. So he's interrupting the Sacred Site cap, and now he's bringing out more of these horsemen. And Salami, oh, he might lose the Scholar as well. That'd be painful. I'll prioritize fire across, but it's too late. Salami's definitely going to lose the remnants of the troops as more horsemen come piling out. The wall's now going down. Salami just trying to actually funnel here. We talked about the choke points. Notice that he has started to achieve that. He had to move out very aggressively to do so. If this was the other way around, this game would be very frustrating for Leonok because he wouldn't have the option to wall the defensive because he'd have so much open ground. So most civs in this northern situation, like we talked about earlier, would have suffered. Salami once again proving why the Delhi don't care. Leonok riding away as more horsemen come out and archers are reinforcing. Salami just zerging out towards the Sacred Site, wants to wall it up. Northern Sacred Site hasn't been tapped just yet, but you can guarantee there'll be a move soon out of Salami to secure that. It's so much gold trickle for him every minute because he has that sanctity. I mean, it's no joke, folks. 200 gold per minute. 60. Look at the pop-offs of 66 there. Look at the surplus gold right now. What the? What? I don't think I've seen the high gold numbers at this stage in the game. That has to be one of the highest for 11 minutes, right? In a game where you're buying your scholars still, right? You're paying some gold out of your economy. How many people did he have a bunch on gold still? I think when we look back here, there were a few, right? So maybe that was just inflating a bit too much, but just look at the numbers. Salami is so cozy right now. Instantly in, dropped the marketplace, made the trade, and instantly up into the castle. And Leonok is nowhere near ready. He fully invested. Look at the numbers right now for Leonok. He does have the scalability of the secondary TC, but he will quickly come under fire in this game now. And he even invested in more military infrastructure. This feels a wee bit dicey, to put it like a Scotsman. Leonok in with a raid. Does find the greedy expansion. Salami is going to be appropriately punished. I wondered when this was going to happen. I felt like he was getting away with this way too much. Think about what he done. Berry bushes on the front here. Berry bushes on the side here. He's been doing pocket expansions as the Delhi. And I'm surprised he got away with this much. And he's once again going to get away with it as he doesn't lose a single villager. They fall back to the TC. Salami is going to respond with his own troops. And Leonok is going to have to retreat. There's just too many horsemen here. And tech up almost complete. Leonok still not ready or prepared at all. In the words of Illidan, you are not prepared, and it's never been truer than this one. You see the numbers do not look healthy for Leonok. And they're going to remain that way for a little bit still. Like, remember, he's in the middle of transition. He's switching his food economy across from game to farmlands. And this does leave him very weak. And Salami just still with so much surplus. And even with that eco difference, it feels like kind of almost irrelevant. I think you're starting to reach a point where it's somewhat noticeable because, like, yes, it's 20 points. It's over 20 points now on the villager count. But the reason it's been feasible for Salami isn't just because he's been min-maxing his gathering rates by going for the berry bushes. It's the fact that he has 2 sacred sites generating 400 gold each at this stage of the game. And now he's collecting the relics to accelerate that further. I am surprised he hasn't gone for this northern sacred site yet. I know it's hard to defend, but it's just passively go grab it. What's the problem, right? Instead, he's moving more scholars through the center, looking to grab these relics and once again escalate his gold in a guaranteed fashion. These sacred sites are a potential risk. They need to be defended. These relics picked up and returned to your base are as safe as can be. Leonok, you can see he's just gone full chill mode right now. To what end, though? Because he's teching up. That's why. There it is. I was wondering, look at those income per minute numbers where it was. Clock tower is now being dropped. Salami, nowhere near a definitive win yet. I feel like Salami has done a great job in this first 10-minute mark, but by 12, 13 minutes, I feel like I'm less impressed. I feel like everything's slowed down. You see he's now dropping the racks, looking for that switch over, but it does feel quite late. The cool thing is because he did make it up quicker on the tech, you can see he's already prepping the home blades. So he will reach and unlock that access point, and it will make him superior to the cavalry that Leonok can push out. And Leonok doesn't have the same clear options he used to as China, right? Like, Fire Lancers did get nerfed fairly heavily. Like, they're not as ridiculously brutal as they once were. And it means that, especially against high-armed units like the Lancers, they can't really be your fallback plan. Instead, you're going to need something else. And you're going to need it soon as Leonok, because Salami already has the first War Elephant out. And he has vision game as well. Leenock doesn't have eyeballs on this at all. So he could easily walk into a trap. Salami, look at the vision. He's going to see you coming. I would love to see him get a scout in this forest here, just so he gets full heads up, right? So you can actually prep on the edge of the forest and then completely engulf his opponent. But we'll see what he does in the coming minute. Once again on the gold, so Salami, is he stacking up, looking for that switch over? It's going to be man-at-arms at the moment. I wonder if you just get a Tower War Elephant here. For the moment, it's just going to be archers. I would love to see 1 or 2 Tower War Elephants, though. I don't know if he's concerned and a little bit paranoid about what's happening in his opponent's base. Leenock is making the right call here. I love the Palace Guard in this situation. I think if you're even if you're concerned that your opponent is building into the elephants, that makes this even more credible of a unit. You need something that can actually move around and dodge, right? So you want to be able to actually move in deep with the Palace Guard, find maybe a crossbow line, archer line, whatever it is, cleave them down while the elephant dances around trying to catch up. And all the while that's happening, you notice he's actually getting a composite of crossbowmen into the mix now. That is going to be your elephant killer. That and Nest of Bees. Nest of Bees are actually surprisingly decent at taking down elephants. They're so slow, they're so easy to target. And the spread damage on Nest of Bees, because it's actually such a big splash area, you usually get decent amounts of damage out with each volley. Whereas when you talk like Mangonels, I feel like, yeah, elephants are still fairly easy to hit, but I've seen plenty of situations where a Delhi player is actually kind of able to dodge most of the damage that a Mangonel would do. Homeblade's now there. Salami looking to fight now as Leenock is raiding in. And he'll just have to back away. It's Spears and Horsemen versus Man-at-Arms. Not a trade you want to take. You can see also, Salami, smart cookie, did get the forced march, so at any moment, he can run straight through to your back line. Right now, he's riding straight through to your economy. Salami in with the 5 lances. Moving through, Imperial official should be sniped out easy enough. Doesn't hang around to be poked by the spears, though, and instead he's going to wrap through the houses, drag them about, and look to get to the back line of the villagers. But it looks like they're too close. Spearman in that charging range for 1.56 means he has to retreat out the other side of the base. Heavy damage done, only gets an Imperial official, almost losing 2 of these lances. 3 of them on the other 3 on half HP. Not good. But they're sneaking. Oh my god, what did I miss here? How many villagers died in that? Wow, Salami, he snaked it. Dragged some attention the other way, and now in with the War Elephant, but the War Elephant, not a good matchup against this many spears. Leenock is prepped for it. He will overwhelm and slay the beautiful beast. And the Nest of Bees have plowed straight through the Archer Battalion. All of a sudden, Leenock ready to move out. Look away for a moment. Salami, it looked like it was a great distraction, right? He draws some attention away. He moves in with his more static force. But Leenock, with the absolute Zerg, S-star rating Nest of Bees game right now, and no response out of Salami. Big mistake made, not dropping a full siege workshop, and now he's going to feel the pressure because he still has no answer. And we talked about it, right? The Nest of Bees, it can be effective against the War Elephants, but you don't even need to worry about the War Elephants. Salami never hard invested into him. Instead, he gives you the extra value now. If you going hard into man-at-arms, you can counter that. But this is where Salami can turn the game. Look at your positioning right now. This is bad from Leenock. He's out of position. And Salami knows. He just saw him run through here. That is going to be all the Nest of Bees falling. There is no way to protect against this. Big mistake made by Leenock. And there's the forced march to overwhelm. I was wondering when that was going to come out. Straight in on top. Burst them down. They're all dead and gone. And now the man-at-arms can easily clean up the spearmen. Leenock has to retreat. Big mistake made. I can't believe Leenock done that. Playing so aggressively next to the stealth forest without protection or vision to guard your Nest of Bees. This was the one X factor that could cost you the game. And now Leenock once again up against the ropes. Fight will commence. New Nest of Bees coming out. Lancers moving in. Trying to wrap. Can easily snipe through the Nest of Bees if they want. A few man-at-arms are on the way over. Nest of Bees are cleaning up the main fight. Evening it up, in fact. Leenock now with the edge for the moment, but not for long. The man-at-arms sticking on top of this. The Zerg repairs coming out to keep it healthy, and Salami not changing targets at any stage on the villagers will finally realize what is up. Wraps around the back, though, with the Lancers. Damage, not quite high enough. It looks like the Nest of Bees, they're covering each other. It's a circle jerk here. They're just having a little rally right here. I'll send you some rockets, you send me some. Oh, you. But the man-at-arms come in for the second renewal. They'll finally get rid of the first Nest of Bees and turn around for the second. And that artillery division is going to be depleted. Leenock now himself depleted. Look at the eco. Salami was surplus. Leenock is without. He's in a little bit of trouble. He will wrap around on the archers now, but the question is who can replace quicker. It was a hard investment by Salami to get rid of the siege weapons, but you can see that Lenok is being dragged through the muds here as the man-at-arms keep sneaking through. Oh, they're just forcing him off everything right now. Sacred Sight does need recapping for Salami. He's still kept that summon one at all times, so he's been collecting there. Berry bushes continue to be depleted, so Salami looking healthy. When we look at income, you can just see it as well. This game, Lenok is trailing by a mile. It's kind of crazy as well. Look what happened after that. Look at the damage to the eco count. And this is all because Lenok had to rush repair onto the Nest of Bees. He had a bunch of villagers stuck in the mixer in the middle of the fight, trying to cluster his opponent together to get good shots to the Nest of Bees. And then we saw these sneak attacks, the Lancers, the man-at-arms, the split-up. Salami, just so much anarchy caused. And Lenok, because he lost this wood line, it's so much easier for you to run into his base. He doesn't have that natural defense anymore. And Lenok, all of a sudden, in a frustrating situation, he needs to move out and he needs to punish Salami soon, or this game is going to be over and it will not end well for him. Stealth Forest once again, Salami's best friend. He stacks up the next force. These force marches, definitely high value in this game so far. It's just so easy to gap close and no easy way for Lenok to move away. In fact, we might see it again. I wouldn't be surprised. All Sacred Sites capped. Lenok was already moved to the north, so he can at least decap this. Instead, he's going to actually look to decapitate his opponent. Understandably, with those big blades as he moves in. Asgard are fast, remember, 1.38 movement speed. Able to get right on top of these villies. And clap them down in the blink of an eye. Salami, late to move away, is going to lose probably 4 villagers in the end. Made that 5. And actually, no, Salami, this is the mistake. He's actually being baited back. So he's going to address this force. I think like the villagers were out though, so you didn't necessarily need to do this. I think instead it might just be better to go straight for your opponent's base. Like he's shown his weakness right now. Instead, Salami will move across. Palace Guard will continue to dance through. Lenok is just all in the business of buying time right now. It's his only move. He does decap the Northern Sacred Site, so no Sacred Site victory to worry about. Man-at-Arms are dragged away, but I feel like Salami's still healthy enough to go in. And Lenok hasn't replaced his forces quick enough. This move is kind of cute, but it's a bit of a Hail Mary, and he's doing the same on the south, and I think this could be a mistake. If he moves south and gets caught out of position here, he might lose his base. Look how many Mangonels there now are. 3, make that 4, and you've got the Tower Elephant. You can siege through this base very quickly. And the Mangonel shot's in! Oh, the damage! Oh, the villager count. That's a painful one. That's a kick to the nuts. Lenok, once again, behind on the eco. And it feels like that's just kind of the name of the game right now. Once again behind every stage when Lenok thinks he maybe gets a one-up, maybe gets a foot back into this game. He is swept at the legs and goes flying down the stairs back to where he began. And Salami's in. And look at the size of the army. The walls as well to create those funnel points we talked about so that his static army cannot be flanked and is not vulnerable. All Sacred Sites have now been capped. And the Mangonels are in. Targeting out the clock tower. Only 2 Sprills, 3 Nest of Bees out right now. I don't know if that's going to be good enough, especially with the Force March still ready for Salami. And there it is. He's in. Zoom, zoom, boys. 2.25 movement speed. They're on top. Sprill's going to be cancelled out before he can do anything. And that's the GG. He understands when it's beat. Beautifully done by Salami. The walls, the protection layers, and most importantly, the anarchy of the Force Marchers just marching straight deep into Lenok's lines and striking him where it hurts most. So well played. Really well played by Lenok. By Salami, rather. Lenok as well, like, I like some of these plays. I think up until that play with the quadruple Nest of Bees being sniped out because they're next to a Stealth Forest, I was really on board with Lenok's strategy. I think he was starting to come back into this. He actually repelled his opponent. He got a foothold. His economy was scaling. And overall, the game looked good. But then that mistake of thinking that you can go and stand next to a Stealth Forest with no vision in the area and with no troops nearby to protect you causes him to lose this game, I think. That is the one detail. If I had to choose one moment in the game where I think Lenok loses this game, it is that detail. It is a heavy investment. That many Nest of Bees, 600 resources each, right? You just lost 2,400 resources in the blink of an eye. And then those man-at-arms can beat your horsemen and your spears. The only thing the man-at-arms are scared of in this game are those artillery units. And Delhi just... Honest to God, I just love what I'm seeing out of them. Like, they are... I say I love it. I don't want to experience it in my games personally because I think that this Civ is actually so oppressive now with the feudal castle age timing. I think we're not quite where we were with Sanctity before, but it feels like we're not far off, right? Like, this Civ is actually lethal. And I think what it really comes down to is when you reach that timing around the Forced March, this artillery meta crumbles, right? And the whole idea is that man-at-arms are meant to be a good front line, but they're meant to be inherently countered by Mangonel spams and Nesta B spams, because one cluster and, like, boom, because they're so slow, they can't really dodge it. The problem in this game, as you're seeing, even the Nesta Bs, with their more kind of like what feels like kind of honed-in fire, aren't able to address the man-at-arms because they zoom up to 2.2 movement speed, I believe it was, per second. That's an insane movement speed. That's quicker than Horsemen. It allows you to easily gap close with a unit that isn't even considered cannon fodder, right? Like, I usually talk about scouts as an interesting counter to siege because you can just rush in, burn them down. If you lose the scouts, whoop to do it 60 foot each. They do great damage against siege weapons. For the man-at-arms, they rush in, they burn it down, and they turn around and fight because there's nothing that they're threatened by. Also, think about how amazing Delhi can be in general against most matchups. Like, man-at-arms usually, they see crossbow on the other side of the fight, they're like, ah, crap, I'm screwed. Not really the case when you're playing as the Delhi. It's going to hurt you, but the gap close doesn't hurt you, which is usually one of the biggest deals for man-at-arms versus crossbows, is it takes you so long to gap close, you lose a bunch of troops by the time you get there. In that situation, you, as the Delhi, you strip that away. You've got the Forced March, you move at 2+ movement speed, you gap close in the blink of an eye, and even crossbowmen are like, I'm not comfortable with this anymore. You try and cycle away, you just can't get away, because the beautiful thing is, like, because they're so fast, when you man-at-arms Forced March rush, you don't rush to engage on the front line. It's not like a Knight cavalry charge, right? The most decisive wins for Knights is where they're able to wrap around the back as well. And because you move even quicker than Knights, you can do that. Knights don't have the same option to do that, by the way. Think about it this way. Knights charge in, they go up to like 1.8, 1.9, whatever movement speed it is. Then they slow down again at 1.6. They can't keep charging and ride around the back at that 1.9. But with Forced March on the Delhi, you're able to get up to that 2.2 movement speed. And you can use it to not only get to the front line and get in their face, you can get past them, cutting off their retreat. I think that is one of the most powerful points for Delhi. I remember I've been talking about this for a while, about how powerful I think that timing is. And I feel like a lot of the Delhi games for a while we've been watching, Forced March kind of just gets ignored, neglected. Everyone's always fixated on, like, how amazing elephants are. But you know what? The Delhi Master is going to show you exactly how to do it. Salami understands that is a really powerful element of this Civ, and he exploits it to the maximum. Fantastically done by him to take the game. By the way, if you enjoyed what you saw here, make sure that you subscribe here on the YouTube side. Make sure you thumbs up the video and leave a comment and share around your friends. I always appreciate that. I know some people have been doing that recently. It's always nice. It helps grow the channel, and you know, the more we grow the channel, the more feasible it is to do more content around this game and more content in general. So I always appreciate that. And be sure to go follow on all the social medias. We're even probably live right now, possibly. I mean, we stream Age of Empires a few times a week, and I'm looking to variety stream the other days, so maybe make sure you're following there. And if you've got a Twitch Prime, maybe drop it. I noticed a few people have been starting to drop Twitch Primes when I'm not even live, so thank you very much to those people. Apologies, don't get the shout out, but I love you all the same. Thanks, guys. Hopefully I will see you in the next one.